Okay, I've got Les Mis in my head. I just had a lovely chat with a colleague at work about Les Mis. And my darlings, July forecast. The themes of Les Miserables, the book by Victor Hugo, and the musical, you know, the Cameron Mackintosh musical, is the theme is revolution. Okay, is a complete reorganizing of society. Les Miserables has all the themes. You know, the ascension, elitism versus poverty, the inner circle versus the outcasts. You know, and there's this reckoning of, it's really a story of moving from, you know, division, from separation, from the poor who are rising up and fighting back against the elites, revolution, but a story of reclamation of self, moving from shame, from seeing oneself as a criminal, or the law seeing you as a criminal, to as being flawed, you know, this idea of sin, and then moving to a different idea of self, a more beautiful, a more absolved, a more loving, and a more full view of self, a whole view of self, a view that is more in alignment with source, with creator, with God's view of who we are, one of divine love. This is a massive theme for this month, is, you know, this major reorganization of civilization. And now I know I'm using really big, massive terms here, but July 2026, according to Spirit, my guides, will go down in the annals of history as an historic month where humanity changes. Now, I don't exactly know what this is going to look like this month, of course. You know, last week I lost my phone 5 times. It's very humbling for an intuitive. I don't know everything. But what I am shown is that there are these kind of themes. They're showing me the 60s. And particularly, they told me that this is the year of the fire horse. And they told me that the last time there was a year of the fire horse was in the 60s. 66, they're saying, was the previous year of the fire horse. And so if you think about what was going on in the 60s, huge changes. Society was reorganized. There was revolution around the minorities, the downtrodden, being elevated to this place of love and equality. You know, the summers of love. I don't know if that was 66 or later or earlier or whatever. But this idea of love, this idea of ascension, coming into an idea of peace for the masses, the hippie era, you know, like we're, instead of being at war with each other, which was, you know, Vietnam and previous world wars, we're going to love each other. We're going to look after animals. We're going to look after humanity, each other. Now, Spirit is showing me that we're going to have this month a kind of renaissance, a new, you know, it echoes these past experiences. They're also showing me really pivotal eras in history. And apparently there's something really astrologically amazing going to be happening around mid-July. Now, July 14th is another super new moon in Cancer. Cancer, of course, is the sign of emotional intelligence. So we're going to have a higher, more evolved emotional self. We're anchoring that in personally and also collectively. But also Cancer is the sign, the house of, the zodiac house of family, this idea of collective, of belonging. And we're going to redefine what family is. Now, this has already kind of been happening in this decade and even in this year. You know, the first part of the year, we've seen this acceleration in the past 6 months around around ascension, the ascension of humanity. And that is happening at a personal level, my darlings. It's happening within us. Now, what we're going to be doing around that time of the Cancer new moon, and we'll be celebrating that in our circle here, is in the hotspot circle. So if for whatever reason you're seeing this and you're not in the hotspot, join the hotspot. I am going to be uniquely posting all these energy updates each month in the hotspot, and I'm going to be focusing a lot more on my membership with all of my latest and greatest information from spirit, from the higher realms. But that super new moon in Cancer is going to bring about a redefined understanding of what family means. So this may be kind of undulations movement in your sense of family, of loyalty to whom and why, who you feel drawn to. We're going to have, again, a higher, more expansive understanding of what family is. Now, as human beings, we have our natal family, who are our family members. But there's a broader understanding of this now. We're going to be looking at who our soul family is. Who is it that we really feel good around? Who do we feel drawn to? Who do we resonate with at a feeling level, at an energetic level, not just at a blood level or an ancestral level? Who are we drawing in energetically? There's also this idea of the earth now as a living being, as a living body, Gaia, as a consciousness, as being a member of our own family. That she's no longer someone that we just live on and are unconscious of. We are becoming much more conscious of the planet, and she's really being invited in by us, perhaps unconsciously, but she is becoming more visceral in our family. We are including her as a family member in our lives. We're also going to be looking at family in terms, it may be happening globally, like a sense of family belonging between nations instead of warring. And sometimes it's the opposite. Sometimes the war ramps up. I'm told that there is something to do with water this month. Now, I don't know if that's to do with the water supplies, or if there is going to be issues on the water, on seas, flooding, war on water, in passages of water, oceans. I don't know. But there's definitely something around water this month. And of course, Cancer is a water sign. That's going to be happening maybe a little bit before the new moon in Cancer, but there's definitely something around water. There's definitely this idea of higher emotional intelligence, a higher understanding of what your family is. And this isn't just about soul family. We're also talking about kind of like galactic, like beyond the idea of human and global, like maybe a more galactic idea of family, maybe a more galactic extraterrestrial star family, all of these things that were these concepts and ideas that have been considered extraordinary or reserved for those with higher gifts or higher understanding are really in July being anchored into the ordinary, the popular culture, the popular ordinary consciousness of humanity is now so elevated because of all of the upgrades we are going through, that all of this extraordinary is really going to become very ordinary. And this acceleration that's going to happen in July is going to continue for the rest of the year. Things are speeding up, my love. The advancements, the ascension, the clearing, the healing. Some of you I know individually are experiencing this at an individual level. You're experiencing healing at an individual level that is quite profound and very fast. Some of you are having experiences that are, you know, astonishingly extraordinary, that they're happening, and the clarity around them is so great, and the movement, the feeling, the release, the emotional release is really profound, and the extraordinary sense of relief or change or transformation afterwards. This is what is going to continue at a personal level. So what they're also showing me about this month is they're showing me not just this idea of the 60s and peace and love. They're also showing me other eras in history, and they're really kind of around this idea of revolution, the reckoning, the Les Mis. They're showing the 14 Juillet, you know, the storming of the Bastille. They're showing also eras in history that kind of reorganized our civilization. So even as recently as the COVID pandemic, how that reorganized us internationally, how it reorganized us as how it reorganized humanity. It reorganized us financially. You know, a lot of major corporations went bust at that time. We were reorganized in terms of how we related to each other. We moved to a much more digital way of relating with each other. Everyone went on to Zoom. You know, there was this massive reorganization of how we saw each other through that pandemic. They have been showing me other eras of like that I don't consciously remember, although many of us have had lives at these eras, because we love incarnating at times of transition, at times of human reorganization and change. They're showing the bubonic plague. They're showing the great, is that the Black Death or something? Spanish flu. They're showing all these really interesting. There are a lot of pandemics and flus, and how these fundamentally change the way we relate to each other. And I'm not saying these are all great things, and I'm not saying that July is going to be all roses and unicorns. The great shift of July, which is this, it's peaking between July 19th and 20th, and it's I did some research on this because they kept showing me the outer planets of our solar system, the huge ones, you know, like Jupiter, and sometimes my guides show them to me as planets, sometimes they show them to me as people. They come in as gods, as the god Jupiter, as the god Pluto, who Pluto is a, you know, dwarf planet now, but as Neptune, as Uranus, and Saturn, and they're all coming in, and they showed them to me as all lopsided, as they were all gathering in one part of the solar system, all in the one house, or in this kind of similar houses nearby, and they were all kind of, because they're so huge, these planets, they're all clustered together, and they showed that this was pulling a huge amount of weight. It was almost kind of lopsiding our solar system, because these are the really heavy, massive planets which have enormous gravitational pull. They're massive bodies of energy, and when they move places, they're massive consciousnesses. They have great pull on humanity. They have a great pull on the other spheres in the solar system, and that includes ours, it includes Earth, and it includes a massive pull on our own energy bodies. The sun, our solar system, this is who we are. We are not exclusive from those things. We are kind of a mini solar system within ourselves, a mini Earth, a mini universe, a mini multiverse, a mini fractal version of Creator itself. We are Source. So we are experiencing all these things. And so that extreme, that cluster of enormous planets peaks on July 19, 20, 21, even 18. Many of us will be feeling it before then. And what is going to happen at that time is this is the peak of this reorganization of human civilization, of human history. I think it's so interesting the light just came on then. So this is what they're showing. There's a huge amount of solar activity again this month. We've been experiencing this already. But solar flares, sunspots, we're going to be having solar storms, and this is going to be causing huge weather conditions, seismic activity on the planet, volcanic. We've already had some major earthquakes recently. That's even going to be starting very, very soon, from July 2nd. So, and that's going to continue for the month. And with this acceleration and that kind of clustering of heavy planets, this lopsidedness, it's going to force change. My guides are showing that when all these things happened in history, there was a clustering of these heavy outer planets. Maybe not in the exact same houses. I don't really understand all of astrology, but they were showing that they're showing it to me as like a bread basket thing that is just sitting out. Like all these heavy planets are sitting out in the shape of a basket, and they're just sitting out in different houses, and they're causing all the solar system to be lopsided, and that is causing us to change. And they're saying that this happened at all these pivotal points in human history, all these plagues and pandemics, major revolution, major change in places. So there is going to be major change this month. Themes of reckoning, revolution, where inequality, extremes of inequality, elitism in terms of wealth, major poverty, that there is going to be a reckoning around that power is going to be returning to the people. So we may see civil rioting, we may see exposure. I mean, we're continuing the themes of exposure of corruption within the elites, exposure of blatant manipulation of the masses by certain few elites, or that are operating under kind of dark force energy, all meant to be for the ascension of humanity. But we're going to see this sort of thing this month. Now, this is all very big, lofty ideas, and I can talk for hours about this stuff. But at an individual level, at a personal level, and we talked about this in the recent hotspot for the full moon in Capricorn, on the full strawberry moon on June 29th, is that we were talking about this idea of wholeness. And when there is a reckoning that is happening, when there is a forced change and a reorganization, a dissolution, a dissolving of old orders, a dissolving of 3D, it's not like it happens all at once. It gets rocky, it gets bumpy, and it's more like a moving between these extremes, okay? We go up to this place of peace and love, summer of love, hippie, we're all one, and then we flip back to these extremes of darkness, of depravity. This is what is happening. But the acceleration of that movement is going to continue, and there's this kind of invitation this month at a personal, individual level to embrace all parts of ourselves, to experience a sort of love of self, an acceptance of self that is aligned more with how Source loves us. How Source, if we are Source, all aspects of us are loved. Our darkness, our density, our depravity, and our peace, our love, our higher expression of self. But all parts of us are being invited in to a greater depth than we've done. And spiritually speaking, we've had a lot of vehicles that have invited us to do this at a certain level, to a certain degree. Oh yes, I've been practicing self-love, radical self-acceptance for years. I do all this self-care. This is what I hear a lot from people. but really, really going to the depths of who we are, the parts of us that cause enormous shame, the parts that we never want to speak about to anyone. Those parts we are being invited to love. Now, this is radical embodiment. This is radical spiritual embodiment and radical transformation. Loving the other. Loving these ETs that are starting to be disclosed. Loving these aspects of otherness that we have not been conscious of, like our own planet, that we haven't acknowledged, inviting them in, loving them. So can you see this theme of self-love, and there's just a storm brewing here, and July is like a storm brewing. It's a lot all at once, but it will go down in history as an historic time for humanity, for humanity's consciousness. Now, I don't know exactly how that's going to roll out this month, but there is going to be this reckoning between kind of leadership. There's always the spotlight on leadership, but we're going to maybe have some explosive revelation around leadership. Power is going to be shifted back to the masses. There is going to be this dissolving of more of an integration between lower self and higher self, instead of all of our sense of self being, based in ego. We're going to shift away from our ideas of abundance and success being primarily based in the monetary systems and our value being financial. We're going to shift into this value around nature, the nature of who we are, and the very nature of Earth that we live in is going to become so much more valuable to us. This is a real shift in consciousness, right? And July is extraordinarily exciting. Now, I feel like I have been processing this in the months prior, and I'm ready. Many of you have been sensing this, integrating it, processing it. July may be a little choppy, my friends. I am here. We are all here for each other in the hotspot circle to navigate this together. Stay grounded. Stay with your family, your chosen family perhaps, of soul family. Spend time with each other. Stay grounded, stay in love. One of my spirit guides, the first spirit guide I ever met, her name is Aya. She is a very ancient angel, and she has worked with me from the beginning of this awakening. She showed me yesterday a new practice. She showed me how to listen with my heart. She stood in front of me, and I've heard this for years, and I've thought, oh yes, lead with your heart. I'm going to be heart-based. We're all becoming heart-based. It's about the heart, the journey from the head to the heart. We're journeying. It's this connection between our ego self, our lower mind, and our heart mind, our higher mind, our sense of collective consciousness, not just individual we know all this. We practiced all this to a certain level. And now we're being called to the next level of practice, to higher spiritual practice. She stood in front of me. She kept placing her hands on my heart and then on my ears. She placed one hand on my ears and one on my heart. She said, listen with your heart. When you're listening to someone, and perhaps you know them, but there can be this thought straight away. You don't like the voice. You've heard them before. You don't really like what they have to say. The ego is very tricky. It's always judging. It's judging self. It's judging others. She was teaching me a new way of listening with my heart without any prior judgment, no contempt prior to investigation. Listen openly with the heart. It was like she moved my ears right down to my heart. And she said, you listen here. You listen to everyone through here. This is a practice for July, my loves. A lot of stuff is going to go down. It's a big month. We've got the July 14 super new moon in Cancer. We've got the full buck moon in Aquarius, an air sign, very quick, mutable air sign. So much goes on in Aquarius, huge advancements technologically. It's going to be a massive month towards the end of the month for technological advancements, for higher mind, this integration between our higher selves, our intuitive senses, psychic senses are going to be alive. You may be starting to experience telepathy. Things might be coming online in that way. And this integration of that with the kind of technological and scientific advancements that are happening, AI. So utilizing, meeting, integration, harmonizing between our higher selves and utilizing higher self to run your AI. Don't let it be run by the lower ego self. If you're using AI, bring in your psychic powers, okay? These are the sort of energies that we should be using with AI to channel it directly, because it's a reality. It's not about not using it, okay? It's here. You don't have to use it, of course, but if you do, have your approach to it. It's like, listen, utilize it from the heart, okay? That's July 29th, okay, and we're going to be having another full moon circle that day in the hotspot. July 30th, it's a Thursday. I am doing a free Q&A discussion, spiritual discussion on anything you like. I mean, this is almost 30 minutes. You know I love to chat. This is how I channel spirit. It's through my throat chakra. I communicate the ideas. I translate spiritual concepts into the human realm. So I'm going to be doing that on Thursday, July 30th from 7 p.m. to 8:30 p.m. It's called the Rising Tide series, and it's at the Healing Society of Nashville. I'll be doing that for free, but you do have to register to have a spot. It'll be held in the lounge there. Only in person, so it's only for my Nashville loves. I'm sorry to anyone else. But if you're in town and you're free, Thursday, July 30th at the end of the month, I'll be doing a Q&A. And if you have any questions about this energetic update, that's a place to bring them, because we're still going to be hot in this month of expansion, of accelerated awakening, an historic month for humanity. And that includes you, my darlings, and me. It includes us all. What a time to be alive, my loves. This is extraordinary. I love you so much. There is more with July, but I'll drip feed it out with a few posts this month. And I'm sending you and yours your galactic, star, interstellar, interdimensional family, infinite love.